Greetings, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about resisting to change. And you can expect me to be doing a live stream every Tuesday, and that will be happening at 5 p.m. Central Time, which is 3 p.m. Pacific and 6 p.m. Eastern. So definitely tune in every Tuesday to join me live for more topics. So I'm going to be talking about resistance to change. What does that mean? Um, Especially at this time when you're wanting to experience something different and you're at a point where um, you might even know you need to change. Like when you really need it most, that's when you experience the most resistance. And with that, there's a reason. There's a few reasons that I have noticed over the years from myself and also with clients that I've worked with. And I want to share some of those with you. I'll share three key points, and then we'll go from there. So first, let's talk about what it means to resist change. Sometimes you don't even know that you are in resistance. You could be so disconnected from the thing that you're needing to change that you have no awareness that you have any resistance to change. And that's one of the first things where you're so caught up in the frustration, you're caught up in being just overwhelmed with experiencing the same situation over and over again. And that's one of the ways that you can start to realize that it's time for something else to happen, for you to do something different, because you keep running into the same scenarios. So when you keep running into the same scenarios, you keep ending up in this frustrated state, or you keep ending up like at a roadblock and you're not sure why. And it just seems to get harder and harder. And when that happens, it's an opportunity for you to start looking at what is not working. What is not working and why is it not working? So that's one of the key points I wanted to bring up before going into the why, which is if you are currently experiencing resistance, you might not even be aware of it. But if you're noticing patterns in certain situations, this could be with relationships, this could be at your job, this could be with your money, with your finances, right? This could be just even with your own personal growth, where you keep running into the same roadblocks or the same similar situations or scenarios. That is a sign that there is a resistance to change, but you're also unaware of it. And that's really important to pay attention to, because any potential roadblock or repeat of something is an opportunity to start asking the question why. So I wanted to make sure I made that clear. So let's talk about three key things that can really be some of the reasons why you have this resistance once you are aware of the resistance, right? So I first talked about being resistant to change and not even being aware of it, and how you can start to become aware of it, how you can start looking at the signs. Now, once you are aware that a change is something that is needed, there are some other key factors when it comes to the resistance. And as I mentioned, this tends to happen when you need change the most, when you are at a significant turning point in your life, when you really have to make a major decision. And a major decision doesn't have to be some big external shift in your life. Sometimes it's an internal change. Sometimes it's you deciding that you need to start to say no to people a lot more, right? Sometimes it's allowing yourself to focus on your own self-care and do that in a way where you prioritize it instead of allowing yourself to put yourself on the back burner. But that could be really hard. You can want to do it all day, but if you're not noticing any progress, in certain areas of your life, and that's the one thing that's preventing you from seeing some type of change and moving forward in a certain direction that you're wanting to take, and the self-care is the one thing that's getting in the way, then yeah, that could be really a challenge if you're so used to people pleasing and putting your family and everybody else first, right? And I'm not saying don't ever put your family first, but there should be some boundaries around that, some healthy boundaries that allow you to take care of yourself. Because if you can't take care of yourself, how are you going to be able to be present for your family or for your partner or at your job, in your community, right? So, and that's an example of how you can get stuck. And even if you want something, that doesn't mean it's not going to be challenging or hard for you. So, um, let's talk about the first reason why you might be experiencing resistance to change, but you're not really sure why. You're not, you know that you are resistant, but you're not fully clear on why, or maybe you haven't fully verbalized it. So the first one is, and let me pin this. You are not ready to replace old habits or patterns. So you are aware that you have a resistance, but you're not sure why. It's because you're comfortable. It's familiar to you. You can stay in the same pattern or the same habit or loop because it's familiar, even though you want something different, but you are staying where you experience familiarity because it feels safer, even though it might not be progressing you forward in the way that you want. Even though you know that if you change this habit, if you do something different, you might get a different result. It feels safer to stay in the space that you know, in the habit, in the pattern. So that's the first thing. And I want you to think about that. Think about, what is there a pattern or a habit right now that you have, that you're aware of, that just keeps you in the same place, where you're not seeing the progress that you want. And it's just like, well, yeah, I know I could do this and I should do that, but you are choosing not to. And it's okay to not be ready. What's more important here is to acknowledge that you're just not ready to change the habit or the pattern. So I want to make that clear. It is okay to not be ready. What's more important is for you to acknowledge that you're not ready. And also know that when you are ready, then you can do something about it. But if you are in a scenario or a situation where you're experiencing the same result that you don't want, you're frustrated with it, and you're just beating yourself up about it, and it's like no, don't beat yourself up about it. Own it. Own that you are not ready to make a change in certain habits or patterns. It is okay. Just acknowledge it and own it, and say it, like, I'm just not ready for that. I know this is something that is holding me back or slowing me down from the result that I actually want, and I'm just not there yet. That's one of the best things you can do. Doing that was like a game changer for me. It's just like, okay, let me just own my shit, please. The quicker you own it and you hold yourself accountable for the things that you don't want to do, and the things that you want to continue to do, whether it's serving you or not serving you, when you own it, you will be in a much better place. You can stop beating yourself up about this thing that you don't want. It's like, no, okay, I know there's something I can do about it, but I'm choosing not to because I'm not ready. Or maybe it doesn't even feel like a choice. It's just like, no, I'm just not ready. And that's okay. So let's go into the second one. The second reason is you feel like you don't know enough. And I've noticed that it's easier to stay in your old patterns or your old habits because you're not ready, but sometimes you're not ready because you feel like you don't know enough. You feel like you need to know more. It's not that, oh, well, I don't have the time, or, oh, I'm not ready because I don't have the time, or I'm not ready because I have all this stuff going on, right? It's like, no, I actually don't know enough to know if I'm even making the right choice. I don't know enough to take me in the direction that I'm actually wanting to go. How can I do this properly? Who should I talk to about this? What book should I read? What course do I need to take? What, what do I need to do? How do I actually go about doing it in a way that is going to be successful? And I want you to think about, what areas of your life do you feel like you don't know enough? What areas of your life do you feel like, if you knew more, if you had a clear pathway or just some resources, that you would be able to take action? And the other part of that is, what is holding you back from actually doing it? Look, doing the research, or asking someone, finding someone, a group, a community, a person, an organization that is doing the thing that you want, or that is providing the resources. What is holding you back from doing that? Because, we're in a technological society. There is a plethora of information at your fingertips. Like, you can just you can research it, but that can be a trap, though, because then you get caught up in over researching. Find a source that you can trust and just go for it, right? You don't want to get caught up in that loop. The other thing you can do is just ask someone that you trust. Ask someone that could, a potential mentor, or ask someone that can point you in the right direction. That's one of the best things you can do. But what is holding you back from actually doing that? That's what I want you to think about. If you feel like you don't know enough, you don't know how to do it, you don't know what the resources should be, you don't know what steps you should take, you don't know how to actually apply the thing that you're wanting to do, what is holding you back from actually finding that out? Think about that. And let's go into the final one here. So the third reason why you might be resisting change, especially when you need it the most, is you don't want to start and not be able to maintain progress. I'm going to say that again. You don't want to start and not be able to maintain progress. This one, I see so many people get caught up in this, because this really boils down to self-doubt. This boils down to not feeling confident in your ability to stay consistent. This boils down to not having or preparing, maybe not even knowing that you can prepare yourself for success. Maybe you're not aware of it, or you don't believe that you can do it. Maybe other people can do it. Other people can set themselves up for success. Other people can do these things, but I can't do it. So I want you to think about, what area of your life do you feel like, oh man, If I could just maintain it, I don't know if I'll be able to maintain it. What if you could though? What if you decided to set yourself up, set your environment up, set your schedule up, create those boundaries that I talked about earlier, set those things up in a way that you can start making that progress. And let me tell you where people get stuck here is you do too much too soon. Like why are you doing so much? I see this happen a lot in the beginning of the new year. And people be like, "Yep, I'm gonna have my goals, and I'm gonna do 8 to 10 to 12, 13, 14 things." And then you can only maintain it for like 2 to 4 weeks. And then you're exhausted. You're exhausted because you're like, man, like you completely shifted the trajectory of how you actually operate on a day-to-day basis. And sometimes you have to do things, at least the approach that I take and the approach that I teach is looking at your life now, looking at what the capacity you have during this time in your life. You can want to do the 8 to 12 to 13 to 15 things, but you might not be able to maintain progress on all of those things at the same time. So I'm a huge advocate of dialing things back and really focusing on 1 to 3 things. One would be ideal, like one main thing, and just start that. Start to build a new habit or pattern around that. Start to feel like you're learning and grasping that process. And it's not even about learning whether it's a skill you're wanting to learn, whether it's just doing something different. You get to learn who you are in the process because you change in that process as well. You get to learn how this works within your current lifestyle, within your current schedule. And then you can start to adjust accordingly. You can make certain things work for you, but if you're trying to do, if you're going all or nothing, and I'm not against that approach, but don't go all or nothing on 10 things and expect to be able to maintain all of it if it's the first time you're doing like any of it. And I want you to sit with that for a moment. How often are you trying to go all in and you're completely changing everything in your schedule, everything in your day, and then you realize I can't maintain this. So then you just give up. It's like, okay, well, I tried to do something. I've put my best foot forward. I tried to do the thing, and I just can't keep up. Yeah, because you are trying to go on the complete and opposite end of the spectrum that you don't have the capacity for. Now, it's different if you have the capacity to do it. If you can make a complete 360, a complete 180, and make that shift, turn things around, then go for it if you know you have the capacity. But oftentimes, you don't, and that's okay. Maybe you want to work out 6 days a week, but if you've never worked out 1 day a week for on a consistent basis for like 3 to 6 months, then maybe you should dial it back a little bit and work your way up to the 6 days a week. And let's go back to the self-care example that I talked about. Let's say you know you need to establish some healthier boundaries around self-care so you can start to prioritize yourself and the things that you want. Maybe you want to start a business. Maybe you do want to get healthier. Maybe you want to learn a new skill, right? Or start a hobby, or just maybe you want to travel. What are some of the boundaries that you need in order to maintain progress in upholding that boundary. What are some of the things you need to do? You need to let people know. You need to tell people no. You need to put yourself in a situation where you can focus specifically on whatever that self-care task is. Is it waking up earlier, going to bed earlier? Going to bed, yeah, waking up earlier, going to bed earlier. Is it meditating? Is it yoga? Is it reading more books? Do you need to create a separate account so you can have money to create a travel fund so you can travel? Like, whatever it is. Do you need to set up an allotment so the money can just automatically go to that account so you don't have to think about it? So again, right, when it comes to maintaining progress or not wanting to start because you feel like you can't maintain the progress, you have to look at what are the processes you have in place. Oftentimes you don't have any, or you're trying to do too much too soon. And you don't, and again, we're kind of in a society where it's, they really promote that all or nothing thing, but how realistic is it for you? And like I mentioned, you can do the 180, you can do the 360, you can go from one end of the spectrum to the other if you have the capacity to do it. Most of the time you don't. So you want to build momentum towards it. And a lot of that has to do with, there's capacity, like I mentioned, but there's also the confidence aspect and trusting that, okay, this is actually working, or I'm actually starting to do it. I'm actually starting to see results. And results can just be you staying committed to creating the change, to doing the work, to following the process, so you can actually experience that change that you're wanting. So those are the three. So I'm going to do a quick recap. Today we're talking about resistance to change. And I shared 3 reasons why you might be resistant to change. And the first one is you are not ready to replace old habits or patterns. The second one, you feel like you don't know enough. And the third, you don't want to start and not be able to maintain progress. And I want you to sit with those things. And like I mentioned in the beginning, you might not even be aware that you are resistant to change. The 3 tips that I shared are once you are actually aware that you're resistant to change. I shared how you can start to identify areas of resistance if you are unaware, how that tends to show up in your life. So definitely keep that in mind as you move forward. And I would love to know if you got value from today's message. Let me know, what was your biggest takeaway? And yeah, I would love your feedback on what you got from this. So be sure to tune in every Tuesday. I'll be live streaming unless I change something for some emergency or something like that. I will be live streaming every Tuesday, and that's going to happen 5 p.m. Central, which is 3 p.m. Pacific and 6 p.m. Eastern. So let me go into the comments and let's see. Greetings. Hey. Hey, Anita. Hello. Hey, Amanda. How are you? How have you been? Great message to start the new year. Yes, absolutely. Greetings. Hey, Jennifer. Hey. Hey, MC. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. I would love to know if you have any questions, let me know. And one of the things that I'm going to be doing, so some of you might recall, if you've been following me for a while, I used to do new moon tarot readings once a month. And I'm no longer doing that. I've had to make some changes, right? So talking about resistance to change. And that was one of the things that I didn't have an awareness of, that I was resistant to. And when I became aware of it, it was time for me to do something different. And one of the things I'm doing different is, instead of a live stream once a month, I'm doing a weekly live show. And I'll also, so y'all know I love tarot. So I will still be incorporating that in a collective message. And that's going to happen every week. I'm going to do a weekly collective message. I'm not going to be doing any, pulling any cards for any individual questions. But I will be doing a collective message. So you can expect that. And I have my deck right here. We're going to get into it. And the goal here is, I want you to take what resonates with you from the message, and see how it shows up in your life. See how you want to apply it, if it resonates. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. And if you're new, then if you're new to tarot, you don't know what it is, or you think it's weird, I use it as a tool. And it's a great way to get insight. And we're going to do this every week, y'all. Jonathan, how are you? I needed this confirmation and can see my resistance. I am so glad that you got this confirmation and that you are seeing resistance. Definitely let me know your progress, and let me know how you're going to apply what you've learned today. No questions. I have work to do, working through resisting the change. I know that's right. Aren't we all? And that's the thing, you can say, and like I said, from personal experience, even from people I've worked with over the years, it's like these underlying things, like, why does this happen? And let me know, whether you're watching live or watching the replay, which key point do you feel most here's the card, do you feel most resonates with you when it comes to the three key points? So the first one was is you're not ready to replace old habits or patterns. The second one is you feel like you don't know enough. And the third one is you don't want to start and not be able to maintain progress. Let me know in the comments if you feel like you want to share. It's okay if you don't. Let me know if there's one in particular that really sticks out to you, that you really feel like, ooh, okay, that's the one I need to work on. So let's go into the collective message. So the card that jumped out, which is very fitting for today's topic, it's the 10 of Swords. It is the 10 of Swords. So the 10 of Swords is, this is a suit that represents the element of air. It represents the mind and just the mental plane, the mental aspect of yourself. And, this card can look a little tragic. It can be intimidating, or some people freak out about this, but I want you to think about this through the lens of the mind. So this is about ending and completion. So we have the 10 representing the end of a cycle, but also the beginning. And when it comes to resisting change, something needs to shift mentally. You need to make a decision, but there also needs to be an awareness of the decision you need to make, which is why I really wanted to highlight that you might not even be aware of your own resistance. It happens to us all. But once you are aware of it, once you start to recognize the patterns, which I shared earlier, then you can start to do something about it. Then you can start to ask the question. So sometimes it's just knowing what to ask. So asking, okay, why does this keep happening? Why do I keep experiencing the same thing? Just start to ask yourself why. Ask yourself, ask your ancestors, ask your spirit guides, ask your mama, ask somebody why, right? I always encourage you to start with yourself. Start with your inner self. Tune into your spirit, your intuition. Tune into your body and ask, why is this happening? It is time for things to shift in your mind. Whether it's just your mentality on how you need to show up and what you need to do, sometimes it's just shifting your perspective. If you're constantly doubting yourself, why are you doubting yourself all the time? Where's that coming from? It's time to shift that perspective. If you don't have the confidence to like put yourself out there in the way that you know you need to be visible, to show up in the world in the way that you need to, whatever that might be, whether it's starting a YouTube channel, whether it's whether it's starting a business, whether it's starting something new, or just really being your authentic self, however you're meant to show up. Is it time to change careers? A lot of that's been happening. Is it time for that promotion? Maybe you love your job, but you've been sitting in the same position for way too damn long. Think about that. Is it time to move to another location? Is it time to finally get that house you've been wanting, or start to prepare for home ownership if that's what you've been wanting for a long time, right? What needs to shift in your mentality? It's funny to be in a place where you don't have anywhere to go, just the unknown. Yes. that is such a good that is such a good perspective. It is. And that's what tends to happen when you are in a place, when you are resistant to change, and you're at a place where you're at a point where you're not sure, when you are aware that you have this resistance, you know you need to change. You might have actually even want to change, but there is this unknown place, there's this unknown space, because this is something that I say all the time. Greetings, Faye. How are you? Welcome. One of the things I say all the time is you are with you for your entire life, right? But you don't know all of who you are. The only way you learn who you are is when you do something more, when you start to challenge yourself, when you start to make the decision to get out of your own way and start to navigate that unknown space. And that unknown space is that space between what you know and what you don't know. It's the space between what you know versus what you want. It's the space between where you're comfortable and where you want to be. That's the space. And in order to get to where you want to be, you have to leave where you're comfortable. And literally, it starts with the decision. It starts in the mind. It starts in the mind. It starts with saying yes, or saying no, or saying not now, right? Putting those boundaries up. It starts with allowing yourself to listen to yourself. You know how people be in your ear? You know how people just be in your ear just talking. Like, why are you talking to me? Why are you talking to me about stuff I don't need you to, like, stop talking to me. If there's too many people in your ear telling you what they think you should do, if there's too many people in your ear telling you what they did, but not giving you, but you don't know how to actually apply it, no, then it's time to step back from that. It's time to just close off that chatter and start to tune into what you need. What do you need? And that space between where you're comfortable, where you're familiar, versus where you want to be, right? It might feel like 10 miles. It might feel like 1,000 foot drop, but it really starts with a decision. And then it starts with a first step. That first step will vary depending on the situation. But what I have found has worked best for myself, for my clients, is preparing for the step. Preparing for the step. Because once you actually prepare for the step, then you're like, okay, now you can make the step. And that's usually the hardest transition of going from once you make the decision to actually making the step, right? Like to taking the action after the decision. And keep in mind, the decision and the action doesn't have to happen back to back. You can make a decision and decide to do something, right? But the action, the follow through with it might happen a little bit later. And sometimes it has to happen later, depending on what you're trying to do. If you're wanting to change careers, then it might take some time to take a few different steps. But you can prepare for the step, though. You can plan for the step. Does that make sense? I'm hoping that's making sense. You're good. I'm doing good. I am doing good. You know, it's cold out here in these Chicago streets. It's snowing. But other than that, you know, hey, nature. I embrace nature. So we are in the season and I'm here for it. So I'm good. Okay, now I feel like you're talking to me directly. I'm more than ready for the change. So number 2 applies most to me. I've avoided the unknown. Okay. So yeah, so one of the things to start to consider is how can you start? How can you start to get that knowledge or that information? One of the best things you can do is just start to ask. Ask to be guided. Start to tune in. Okay, is there someone in your current realm of network, whether it's people you know directly, whether it's people that you follow online, books that you've read, authors, whatever it is, that is doing the thing that you are wanting to do or moving in that direction, right? How can you start to look at your network, start to look at who is doing that. And if there's no one in your current network, then this is a great opportunity. Or in your current field of awareness, it's an opportunity to expand your field of awareness about who knows this stuff. I've had to go through that quite a bit, even with the work that I do, because especially if no one's really talking about the things that you're actually wanting to talk about, or you don't know how to fully articulate it, it can be challenging, and or it can take. Sometimes it's not even challenging. It's just like, well, where do I go then? I always encourage you to go within first. Listen, when you make the decision, the universe will start to guide you and start to point you to the signs. There have been so many times, and let me know if any of you have experienced this. There have been so many times where I have said yes to something. I was like, yes, and when you decide something, when you decide to say yes to something or decide to say no to something, when you decide it, you have to believe it. You have to commit to this energetically. You can't just be lying because the universe be knowing, okay? They be knowing. You can't be like, yep, I decide, but you don't believe it in your body. You're not like committed to the yes or committed to the no energetically and spiritually. You don't have to do nothing about it yet. You have to believe it like, yes, I am ready for this. I'm ready to do what it takes. So yeah, so start looking at who is doing the thing. Who can move you towards that? Start to go within, start to ask, and the universe will align you. And this is why I'm always talking about the alignment of the mind, the body, and the spirit, right? Because what is in the non-physical can manifest in the physical. Your body, your mind is like the bridge. It's part of the bridge. There's a lot more to the bridge. That's a whole nother conversation. But that's part of allowing it to manifest, allowing it to happen. So I hope that was helpful. I would like a reading on what I need change. Faye, oh, you might not have caught the first few minutes, but I'm no longer doing individual readings on when I'm doing live streams. So I'm only doing collective messages, and I'll be doing that every week. And I encourage you to apply that to whatever's going on in your situation if it resonates with you. If you are interested in a private reading, then you can. I am available for private readings. And if you're interested in booking a reading, let me know. And I actually, while I'm thinking about it, let me drop my my link here. Let me see. I think I could pin this. Let me see. How do I pin this? No, I don't know how to pin things. I'm not sure how to do it. Okay, I just dropped my the link to my link tree. So what you can do, if you click on that link, just you can send me a DM on Instagram, and then we can coordinate. We can coordinate that. We can talk about, yeah. That'd be the best. That's the easiest. The path of least resistance is to just send me a DM on Instagram, and Linktree has all of the links to my social media and all that. Let's see. Oh, it's cold down here. Okay, let's see. For me, it happens when I shut up my ego. Yes, and you know what? When it comes to the Ten of Swords, when it's time to make a decision, part of that inner battle, that inner conflict, can absolutely be the ego. It's like the ego be like, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up. The ego be like, wait a minute. No, we've been doing this the same way all this time. This is who you are. This is what we do. Spirit and intuition be like, it's time to do something different though. And there is a way that you can allow that your ego can work. You can work with your ego. It can work for you and not against you. But you have to lean into it. But yeah, when the ego does not like to change. Wherever you feel most powerful and most confident, the ego likes to stay there. But the thing with change is that it's inevitable. It is inevitable. It is necessary. I mean, think about it. What if we never change? What if nothing ever changed? Do you want to be in the same place you were 6 months ago? Is that what you want? Like, think about 6 months ago. Is that where you want to be Same situation, same experience, same thing. Do you want that? The change helps close the gap. It forces you to do something else, right? It's a cycle. But I feel you on the ego thing, child. Still problems with that icky word C, consistency. Yes. And that's a topic I will be talking about in a future video about consistency. It's one of my favorite things to talk about because I notice a lot of people get stuck in the consistency. And part of it, what we talked about today, in those 3 key points that I shared when it comes to resistance, can definitely help you. A lot of times with the consistency, it's about confidence or not having a clear process that is sustainable. But I'll definitely be diving more about specifically on consistency. My ego wants to go the same old way. Yep. And it's easy to go the same way because it's familiar. It's familiar. And you can kind of be on autopilot. You know how you learn to drive? You learn to drive, and when you first learn to drive, you're looking, both hands on the wheel. Once you have experience driving, then you kind of go on autopilot. You don't really have to think about it. But think about, okay, you know how to drive, you're comfortable, you don't think about driving, but you're going into a place that you're not familiar with. You're going to this unknown location. You pay more attention, you're more alert because you are navigating new territory. So you actually have to put more energy into the driving because you have to navigate this new territory. It is the same thing when it comes to you, with you experiencing change and navigating change. Yeah, it takes more energy. It burns more calories. It might take some time. So, you don't Insta, then you can send me a message on Facebook as well. The link to my Facebook business page is also on that link tree. So that's another way you can connect. Hi Tia, how are you? Via, hi. Exactly. I fought with ego prior to putting my 2-week notice in. Yeah, man, it can be the ego is a thing. And it can be such a major factor in you taking so long to do something because of the 3 key points that I mentioned earlier. But when you start to question it and you start to move and you start to just be curious about, well, what else is there? How can this work? What can I do? What are some other options? Then you start to going into expanding your perspective, which goes back to the 10 of Swords, the collective message, the collective card for the week. And be sure to stay tuned every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Pacific. And what is it? I pinned it here for a reason. 6 p.m. Eastern. I'll be doing a live stream every Tuesday. All right. So it's such a major part. And when you have the awareness of it, you get to a point where, because this is the one thing about the ego. The ego likes you to be unaware. The ego wants you to just be on autopilot. Once you're in your groove and the ego's like, okay, yep, got this. It doesn't want to do anything different, really. And that's why the awareness versus the unawareness and how that resistance can show up, why that's so important, and why I started the show with that distinction. Because why be aware of this when I can just operate on autopilot, because that's easier. But easy doesn't mean good. And hard doesn't mean bad. So something to think about. Hey, Aaron. Oh, yeah, you are late. I'm getting ready to wrap up. You have to catch the replay. But thank you for tuning in. And yeah, I'll be here every Tuesday. Unless otherwise mentioned, I will be here every Tuesday. So I'm getting ready to wrap up. Thank you all for tuning in. And I really hope that you got some value for this topic. Be sure to drop in the comments what you took away from this message today. And just a reminder that the collective message for the week, the collective card is the 10 of Swords. And this is all about the mind and ending this is about endings and beginnings, right? In order for you to start something new, if you want to experience something new, you have to end something in your mind, right? You have to make the decision that you're either going to say no to something, or you're going to say yes to something, or you're going to say not now to something. It starts in the mind. And once you start doing that, once you make the decision in your mind, how that shows up in your physical realm, that might happen a little bit later, but you have to fully embody that decision. And from that point, once you make the decision, before you actually take action, you need to prepare for the action that you need to take. Be prepared first. And that's what I encourage you to do. Tune in and see what are the decisions that you need to make. And how do you prepare for the actions that you need to make based off of those decisions? That's what I want you to focus on this week. And definitely come back and give me updates on how this message was showing up for you and how you applied it. Definitely let me know. And I will see y'all on the next one.